Hello, it's me, Nikki, and I am here with your homeschool questions. So I actually have a couple of videos that I'm doing. One of them is going to be why we homeschool, how we homeschool, and that type of thing. Because I think that homeschooling is actually more of a state of mind, a lifestyle, a mental decision on what you're going to do and wanting to be in control of your children's education and what they're learning and how they're learning it versus what we're currently under, which is schooling at home. And so I'm going to answer that question in a different video. And then I did get several times, I got the question, how do I schedule my kids? How do you schedule? What does the schedule look like? I have various ages and stages. And so I'm going to share the difference between my normal homeschool schedule, which includes all of our activities, versus our quarantined homeschool schedule. So while I'm filming this, we are under quarantine. This is week 3. I don't know. Maybe it's week 2. Maybe it's the end of week 2. It's a Saturday. It's Saturday. I don't know. And so you guys have had a little bit of an opportunity to be schooling your children at home. And some of you have had some amazing questions about it. And so I wanted a chance to talk to you guys about it. Okay, so if you hear my kids, they're supposed to be out watching a movie. The baby's taking a nap. But my 5-year-old keeps coming in here and telling me that various things. He wanted chapstick just now. So anyways, there's a million things. So that's part of homeschooling, is constantly having your kids there with you. So I have a whole list of questions, so that's why I keep looking down, is I have a whole list of questions, and I'm going to go through them as quickly as I can, because I don't want this video to be forever long, and I'll try to hit as many questions as I can. If you have any more questions, feel free to message me. I don't know if comments are on or whatever, but you can always email me. If you follow me on Instagram, it's me, Nikki, at Instagram. And then there's some of you that are friends with me on Facebook, and you can also message me on Facebook and ask me questions. So, don't mind the boxes behind me. We're moving into our new house, so we don't have things set up. There's my drink. So the first one, okay. First question, what ages and grades do you teach? So currently, I teach 4 kids. Currently. So I kind of looked like that because my oldest daughter is a senior in high school. She literally has an art class that she's finishing online, and then she's done. And so I'm not really doing a lot with her. She's doing a women's Bible study with me, but she's 16 and she's a senior in high school. Hopefully all of this quarantine stuff will be all done with, and we don't have to worry about it for the start of the next school year. And then she will be starting school at Votech, which is our technical school. She's going to be doing graphic design and cosmetology simultaneously. So I have her. Above her is Tyler, who is in his first year at college, and he's also going to that same Votech. Currently he's not, because we're at home, but he is doing visual I want to say performances, but that's not right. Visual production. That's what he's doing. He's doing video stuff. And then my oldest son is doing an internship at our church and will be going into the college at our church come this fall. His best friend lives with us also. He is also doing the same internship with the same college plans. Then my niece lives with us, and she works full-time, and my pseudo-son, Caleb, also lives with us. He's just one of my bonus kiddos, and he is a full-time employee also. So those are all the older kids. I don't really do school with any of them. Like I said, I have a couple of things I do with Melody. Technically she's a senior, but really she is just doing an online class right now to finish up, because it is April of her senior year. So let's be real, she just doesn't have a lot going on. Then I have Elizabeth, who is in 4th grade, and she will be 9 this month. And then I have Riley, who is 7. She is in 2nd grade. And I have Jackson, who is 5. He is in kindergarten. And then we have Clara, who is 3, and she has not quite started preschool yet. She'll start it this fall. Okay, so that's who I teach and how old they are. So I talked about the scheduling one. We'll just post that as a new video because that is a video all in itself. Curriculum. What curriculum do you use? I started out using whatever the charter school was that Alex was in, recommended, and then we moved on to an independent study school. And when Alex was in 1st grade, and I allowed her to, who was my mother-in-law, I allowed her to kind of guide me on what we used, and that was all great and dandy. When Melody hit kindergarten, I really felt convicted in my heart to put my full heart into homeschooling, my full trust into God in homeschooling. And at that point, I went from schooling at home to actually homeschooling, and kind of our lifestyle became homeschooling. And throughout that first year, I went from homeschooling to what is called unschooling. It's not really not schooling, but it is very different. It's child-led. It's child-led unit study schooling. So I do use a variety of things. We use the library a ton. We use the internet a ton, and then I use a Konos curriculum to kind of go off of, because it does attributes of God that we want our children to have, like honesty, attentiveness, obedience, patience, kindness, all of those different things. And then in those are various topics that the kids might want to talk about, that they might want to learn about. So we have spent an entire year doing astronomy. We've spent like 6 or 8 months doing like the Wild West, basically. It was really geared around Little House on the Prairie. My little girls love Little House on the Prairie. They're obsessed with the show and the books. They even have like the little beginner books. And so we did a whole study on that. We've done zoology. We've done anatomy and physiology. We've done all sorts of things. We've done all sorts of histories, all the different wars. So basically whatever the kids are interested in, the time that they're interested in it is when I do that subject, because I found that they are more willing to sit down and do lots of study of it. And then I involve all of the topics minus phonics and math. And for phonics, I always use Sing, Spell, Read, Write. I have used it since Alex. It's through Pearson Learning, and you can still order things like the workbooks and stuff. It only goes up to about the 3rd grade, 2nd or 3rd grade level. But by the time that they get up to that level, they're really into more reading their own little chapter books and stuff, and they're kind of beyond the phonetical part of that learning. And then for math, I use a combination of Life of Fred and Saxon math, depending on the kiddo that I'm learning and the stage of math that they are in. So will my kids be social outcasts? I hope so. That sounds so bad. I hope that your kids are not like the general population kids. I hope that when you homeschool them, that they learn to become independent thinkers, that they learn to do things on their own without knowing what their peers think of everything and caring what their peers think of everything. On the other side of that, no, they're not going to be unable to speak to people and be hermits. My children are super social. They're able to deal with all the ages and stages of different groups, and that's part of the perks of homeschooling. Not a downside to homeschooling. Where do I find resources? Oh my goodness. My girlfriend just told me last week when she was looking, because all of you guys brought your kids home, she said, so I decided to look up some homeschool resources, and it was super overwhelming. There's a ton, but here's my favorite thing to do. If there's a topic that your kiddo wants to learn about. So her daughter is 11, and she loves dinosaurs. Best place ever. You go into Pinterest, you put dinosaur lessons, and lessons and art crafts and activities and science experiments and books to read all pop up on Pinterest. There you go. There's your biggest resource. There's a ton of resources. You just type in Google homeschooling or homeschool resources, or you'll get a ton. And I'm sure that most of your schools are putting on their websites resources for you. How do we do state testing and evaluations? So I live in the state of Oklahoma, where we as Oklahoma citizens have the right to homeschool our children, and we have the right to school our children any way we see fit. And so there isn't any regulations or state testing that we have to do. When they get their driver's license, they have to be able to read at an 8th grade reading level. And obviously to get into colleges, you have to take your SATs and your ACTs. So that kind of is the testing that my kiddos do. But my kids do test out of the end of each math year and subject, if they're so far along in math and they've done like 3 or 4 chapters, then there's like a test usually. And then at the end of the year, there's like a bigger test that tells you everything that they learned in that year. So we do that kind of testing, but I don't do state regulated tests. Every single state is different. So all you have to do is look up the homeschool regulations for your state, and you'll find out about testing. Now, if your kids are in public school and they've sent them home to be schooled at home, they will take care of that situation. So you don't need to learn about it. What do all the ages learn about? Oh, this was a good one. What do all the ages learn about, or on the same topic or different topics per age? I started out that way. I started out with, Alex has to learn all the first grade stuff, and Tyler has to learn all the kindergarten stuff, and Melody has to learn all the preschool stuff. That's ridiculous. I have 7 children. And at one point, I was teaching all 6. I didn't have the baby at the time. I was teaching 6, 7 including Daniel, who was also a senior that year. And that would have been insane to do. So what I do is the kiddos pick topics that they want to do throughout the year at the beginning of the school year. And so like this year, my kids did American history, states and capitals, and zoology. And so those are the 3 main topics that we focused on. And whatever level they were at is what they had to do work for. So Jackson might be coloring a picture of the state of California, where Riley is learning how to write out the different topics about California. Elizabeth is doing a full-on state report about California, and Melody is going beyond and maybe doing the politics of the state. So that's how I work that out. Where do you start? Just start. My favorite thing to tell brand new homeschool parents, and this goes for all of you who just had to bring home your kids, calm down. Relax. Don't stress. Get a stack of books that you love. Your favorite books that you read as a kid, your favorite books that you want your kids to read. Charlotte's Web, Stuart Little, Little House on the Prairie, Dr. Dolittle, Mr. Popper's Penguins. What are some other really great ones? I don't know. There's a ton of really great ones. Sit down on the couch, cuddled up under a blanket, and read to your kids. Do tons of read alouds. We are currently reading 5 different novels. One of them is about Rosa Parks. One of them is Dr. Dolittle. One of them is The Island of the Blue Dolphins. We have all these different books going on, and throughout the day, at various times, we have read aloud time. Whether we're all snuggled up, sorry, I'm pulling my own hair. Whether we're all snuggled up and reading, or maybe they're playing Legos on the floor quietly, and like they don't talk, they're not like playing like little guys Legos, they're building with the Legos. While they're doing that, or doodling, or drawing, or painting, I read to them. On really nice days, we'll sit on the back porch and they color with the chalk on the sidewalk, and I'll read to them then too. That's the place to start. Am I good enough to teach? Yes, you are. You know your kids better than anybody else. So be confident in that. Be confident in knowing that you know your kids. You're going to be their best teacher, and you're going to be able to teach them the things that they really need to know, like how to be good citizens, how to be good people, how to be respectful, how to be honest. Those are the important things in life, right? Everybody always asks, like, what's the most important quality you want in a person? Honesty, right? Is that not 90% of the time we want that is honesty? Well, who better to teach them than you? All the other stuff falls in with that. And I encourage you during this time, take time to find out how your student learns. Take time to figure it out. Are they a kinetic learner? Do they need to have their hands on it? Are they a visual learner? Do they need to see it to understand how it happens? Are they an audio learner? Do they need to hear you saying it, reading it, repeating it to get it? Do they need to write it down in order to remember it? You find out how your kids learn, and that's going to be so helpful when they go back to public school, for the teacher to know, like, you're like, hey, my kid is a kinetic learner. We figured this out. That's going to be super helpful for the teachers. And if your kids are not going back to public school, but your kids are staying at home with you, then that is going to help you tremendously. Let's see. How do I get my kids to sit still and learn and want to do their work? So on a homeschooling level, we have, there's a certain, it's our lifestyle. There's a certain vocabulary that we use. There's, we're doing this as our lives. So we know when our kids are just done, our kids are done. You know, I'm not good at change. I'm really, really, really bad at change. Even good change stresses me out, and I get really bad anxiety about it. So what if all of my kids were in public school and I just brought them home? I have 3 that are autistic. I have 4 that are obsessive compulsive. I have 3 high anxiety children. I have all of these various things. How are they going to handle the stress of the change? How's my neurotypical kiddos gonna handle the stress of the change? This is a lot of change. If you're stressed out, they're stressed out. So if you're freaking out that they won't sit still and learn all of their subjects, they're not going to. They're not going to. I would say that now is the time to experience life with your kids. If you need to, make this your character training time in life. Teach them how to sit down quietly. Teach them how to be respectful. Teach them how to listen. Your teachers will love that when they get back. But also, that's how they're going to sit and learn and listen. And be able to do all of their schoolwork. It's going to take time. And the more you're stressed out about it, the less likely they're going to get it done quickly. Do I need to give them a test each week? I mean, if you want to. I have a couple of kids that have really bad test anxiety. If you tell them that you're taking a test, they just shut completely down. Some of my kids totally thrive off of making sure that they got at the work and that they tested out of it. So it just depends on your kiddo. Do you need to do a start and stop time each day? I did do that for a long time. For a long time, I was a 9 to 3 school person. And then I quit. And I decided that we're going to do school when works for us. And if my husband has the day off, we're going to take the day off. And if my husband has to work on a Saturday, maybe we'll do schoolwork on a Saturday. And if we want to go to the zoo in the morning and come back and do school in the evening, we're going to do that. And it worked a lot better. So I would say fit it into what works with your family, what works with the work schedules in your family, with the time that you are at home. Don't force it to be a certain amount of hours. And honestly, like, your kids are used to going to school for 8 or 9 hours a day, but that's not how long they're learning. Really, 1 student or 2 students, or right now I have 5, it doesn't take 7 hours. a classroom of 30 to 40 kids, yeah, that takes a long time to get to do an hour's worth of math with them. It's one chapter. One chapter of math for my 4th grader takes about 30 minutes altogether. For my 2nd grader, it takes about 15 minutes. So be more realistic with your timing and understand that probably if you have elementary age kids, they're going to be done with school by lunchtime if you do it in the morning, or they'll be done with school between lunch and dinner time. If you have a high schooler, it might take them a little bit longer because they might have some more reading to do, but it really won't take much longer. And what if I hate certain subjects? I actually really loved this one. What if I hate certain subjects like math and history? How am I going to make that exciting for my kids? Find out what makes it exciting for you. So again, go on Pinterest, find a topic that interests you and your kids, and go all at it. Math's kind of a hard one. You're either right-brained or left-brained, and very few people are both straight down the middle and do very well with math and very well with English, or do very well with science and math and very well with art. Usually it's one or the other. And so if math isn't your thing, number one, maybe math is your husband's thing or your wife's thing. Number two, there's a ton of videos on YouTube that could help you with math and science and all the technical sides of that. Number three, look up games. Do games with your kids so that they can learn the topics. That'll make it a lot more fun. As far as history and science go, like all of the reading and dates and stuff like that, find topics that interest you guys. Watch documentaries, do art projects. One of my favorite things to do is lab books, because it's a whole bunch of little art projects all in one, and they get a ton of information by the end of it. And go little by little, chunk by chunk. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's how you're going to study world history, is one bite at a time. Make it exciting. I had a high school history teacher who would let us reenact the wars, the American wars, as we were learning them. And so we had the French-Indian War in our classroom, and we divided up into the different areas, and we had little styrofoam swords and styrofoam guns, and we went, we had war, and we figured out how it worked, and we figured out, during World War II, who was in alliance with the other ones and everything. And so make it that way. Find books that are exciting to read, and that's going to be very helpful. So this video is already 25 minutes long. I talked a ton. I talked really fast. I hope that this is helpful. I plan on doing a how we actually homeschool, why we homeschool, that type of video. I also plan on doing a scheduling video, my non-quarantined homeschool schedule and my quarantined homeschool schedule. I also plan on doing several homeschool day in the lives so that you all can see what we do and how we do it. I hope you are having a blessed Saturday, and I hope that you take this time that we have to be quarantined in our home, and it's scary, and there's a lot of scare and a lot of fear, and you put your trust in the Lord, and you put your trust in your hope, and you gather with your family, and you enjoy them, and you make memories with them, and that you just have fun with your kiddos. Have a blessed day. Bye.